Guardian released reports on how Facebook moderates
content moderators keep these digital public spaces from the worst the internet.
Its confidential rulebook on sex, violence, and terrorism was recently leaked.
Organisation, Facebook, a publisher of content, or is it a platform?
Facebook is not just a news platform, it's a news story in and of itself. And this past week, the British newspaper The Guardian revealed hundreds of internal documents produced by Facebook, ground rules for the site's content moderators for what is and is not acceptable. From violence to racism, revenge porn to child abuse, the picture that emerges is one of a company struggling with how to cope with more than 1.3 million posts per minute in multiple languages. It's taken until now for Facebook's nearly 2 billion active users to get a look under the hood. Why did it take so long? Perhaps because Facebook does not call itself a media company. It's always considered itself a technology company and therefore not bound by the rules and responsibilities that publishers are. Facebook's product, after all, is not the content in your news feed, none of which it actually produces. It's you, your likes, your shares, your location, your profile. But the site is not beyond the reach of pressure groups and governments for going too far. Like it or not, this is a story about competing interests, the company's financial interests and the public interest. Our starting point this week, Silicon Valley, USA, Facebook's headquarters in Menlo Park, California.
Companies like Facebook are famously very secretive about the specifics of their content moderation rules, partly because they don't want people to game the system, but it's also because it reveals a very ugly underbelly of the social network. It doesn't really fit with Facebook's warm and fuzzy brand image of connecting friends and family.
But these revelations matter because they're the peeks inside the machine we get to try to understand how Facebook is thinking about the decisions they make. And they really propel the conversation forward because this is what we have to go on in the absence of Facebook's transparency into how it makes its decisions.
And what these revelations show for the first time since Facebook's inception in 2005 is the first glimpse at how they have been managing the content that we as users see.
When The Guardian broke its Facebook story, revealing what it called the site's rule book on sex, terrorism, and violence, the picture that emerged was one of a technology company that has accidentally grown into something else, the world's biggest media platform. A company that is making up the rules as it goes along, recently almost doubling its number of content moderators. And Facebook is doing that while trying to maintain what is and will always be its primary mission, keeping people on the site.
I think they have a very laissez-faire approach. They very much want people to be able to be free to speak their minds, to be open about what they're doing, and be able to publicly share what they want, because the more you get involved, the more you can be accused of so many things, such as being a censor for the entire world.
They currently have 4,500 moderators, so to add 3,000 more is obviously, almost doubling the resources that they've allocated to this issue. If that many more moderators are warranted, how has the system been functioning? It tells you that they're not ready for prime time, which is really scary because they're in prime time.
And I would argue that it's piecemeal. They have now 7,500 workers who are there apparently moderating content. They're given no more than 10 seconds to look, to make a value judgment about, should this content be seen, should it not be seen? There's 1.9 billion people on Facebook, so how really can 7,500 people manage 1.9 billion people's content?
Boosting its number of content moderators was Facebook's response to an horrific case earlier this month, when a man in Thailand posted a video of himself murdering his young daughter before taking his own life. Like other postings of shootings, rapes, and suicides, that video was deleted, but only after users complained about it. Facebook lacks the capability to scrutinize such material before it hits your news feeds. Facebook's head of global policy management, Monica Bickert, told the Listening Post that keeping people on Facebook safe is the most important thing we do. 2 months ago, the site's so-called newsroom added what it called new suicide prevention tools. However, this is yet another area where Facebook's public pronouncements seem to conflict with its business model. According to the Sydney-based newspaper The Australian, Facebook's algorithms can identify users who are emotionally vulnerable, particularly young ones. And according to that report, Facebook has shared that information with, of all people, its advertisers.
It passed that information on to advertising agencies as a sort of, here's how much we understand about our consumers. And that is the key point here. I think it just shows how much data Facebook has about us. Everything we like, every photo we upload, every comment we make, every person we interact with, and all that data can be harvested and then repackaged and sold to advertisers so that Facebook can make money. So when you use Facebook, you've got to remember that it's not Facebook that is the product. We are the product, and we're being sold to advertisers.
Facebook's response was that they do not target, they do not do ad targeting based on emotion. That's a very broad statement, and knowing what we do about how Facebook likes to micro-target advertising based on where you are, what you know, and it asks your moods, there's a sense that it's a disingenuous response. And the report was put together by 2 Facebook employees in Australia, and Australia also happens to be the only market where Facebook's ad revenue is declining. So it left people and observers and privacy advocates with more questions than answers.
High quality 360 content.
However, Facebook's lawyers aren't focused on legal issues in Australia these days, or even in the US. They're looking at Europe. Last week, the European Union's antitrust body fined Facebook $122 million for misleading regulators over its 2014 takeover of the messenger service WhatsApp. And the EU has a new data protection law coming into force next year, which allows for fines of up to 4% of any company's total earnings. Such cases could cost Facebook or other tech giants billions. As for Facebook's argument that we are what we say we are, a technology company, rather than what we have become, a media company, that is straight out of the Silicon Valley Handbook.
What's been so interesting is how willing society has been to accept that. They're willing to accept Uber claiming it's not a taxi company, it's a technology business, so they don't have to abide by the rules of a taxi company. They're willing to accept Airbnb with a very similar excuse, so they don't have to abide by the rules that hotels have to abide by. Amongst all of Silicon Valley today, rather than just Facebook. And I think what's going to happen very soon is we're going to have to decide what rules we want these companies to abide by.
Facebook consistently has said that they're a technology company and not a media company. But as more and more of people's transactional and media life takes place on Facebook, you're going to have more and more of these issues come up. Those laws were probably not what Facebook had in mind when they raced to be a community of 2 billion people on the internet, but now they've grown into these problems.
We've seen these kind of second era internet companies grow and grow and grow, and it almost seems like they're unstoppable. If you look at the top 10 largest companies in the world right now, most of them are tech companies, and they're doing it with our information. Certainly in the EU, the showdown is already underway, and I think that the mood might change, and if consumers are really concerned about this, that might be something regulators are willing to look into.
Media companies have to be responsible for all of the content that they publish. That usually means they have to have clear editorial guidelines, and they are quite closely regulated. Technology companies, on the other hand, would say, we're just a platform allowing our users to share the content. We have nothing to do with what content is shared. Being a media company is a massive pain in the ass, so it's understandable why Facebook wouldn't want to accept that responsibility, but it's going to become harder and harder for it to refute that it is, in fact, a media company.
It's great to be here with you today.
Like all companies that start out as technology firms, Facebook is in search of solutions, tweaking its algorithms, its practices, and its news releases accordingly. But with nearly 2 billion users relying on the site for more than mere validation, for information, come certain responsibilities. Facebook is where share values and core journalistic values collide. And until it admits to what it has become, a media company, and all that that implies, Facebook is selling its users and the world they live in short.